welcome to another episode of Big Talk. Today we are lucky to have with us Mr. Basim Al Saie, who I personally think he's one of the most successful entrepreneurs we have in the kingdom. So without further ado, Mr. Basim, how are you?
Thank you, Sameer. And I think you give me too much credit, but happy to be with you.
It's the truth. It's the truth. My job is to follow entrepreneurs. That's what I do. I want to see what they've done, how they did it. I want to learn from them. I want other people to learn from them. You're on that radar list, and we've been I've been trying to contact you, and finally we got you here, and we want to learn everything you did, everything, the good and the bad. We want to learn all what happened to you. So let's start back in the early years. You went to my school. You went to Al-Raja, which is it was called a mission at the time.
Yeah, during my time it was called the American Mission School, and then halfway through got changed to Al-Raja School.
Now, you're still somewhat involved with that school? Are you still?
Not anymore. I had the honor of serving on the school's board of trustees for almost 6 years. 3 years as a member in the board and 3 years as the chairman of the board.
Okay.
So that was kind of a very interesting, period of being, leading that school that I used to be a student at many years ago from a board level. And
well, you're giving back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're giving back.
Absolutely.
Now, from there, you went to Abdulaziz. From Abdulaziz, you went to the higher education. You went in the U.S., correct? You went to Boston, was it?
I went to Boston, and Boston seemed like as if you were entering Switzerland. Very clean, organized. People were very polite. So that was kind of, the beginning of what I say is probably the greatest, most memorable part of your life is the college years.
What did you attain from that 5 years?
Well, I studied mechanical engineering. My passion was somewhat architecture, but I felt comfortable where I was, and I liked the university, and I liked Boston, and there were not a lot of good architectural programs at the time in other universities.
Now, with a bachelor's degree in one hand and a suitcase in another hand, you came back to Bahrain?
No, I didn't come to Bahrain. And actually, my first working experience was in my last 2 years in university, where I was a teaching assistant in the computer-aided design and manufacturing lab. And I think this was very important for me because it taught me the importance of work and the discipline of work. And at the time, I did not want to come to Bahrain fresh out of college. I wanted to get some work experience in the U.S. So after I graduated, I moved to a small company in Ridgefield, New Jersey, that was designing custom elevator cabs, doing very fancy elevators. Then I decided basically that it's time to come back. So
what was the first thing you did when you came back to Bahrain?
Then I was on a search for a job, and during the late 80s, it was kind of very difficult to find jobs in Bahrain. I went, since I was technical. I was kind of pushed to go towards banking because banking was like the biggest industry at the time. But somehow my heart was never in it. So I wanted to work in an area where it allowed me to move into corporate management in such companies. What was interesting for me was an offer from Balexico, which is a Bahrain aluminum extrusion company. So for me, that was kind of interesting, and that was kind of my first jump into the aluminum world.
What happened then? You worked in that company for how long? Balexico, right?
Yeah, almost 7 years. It was the first few years were amazing years. During my period at Balexico, I became the youngest manager in the company's history at the age of 22, I think. But it was kind of a very challenging time, and we were preparing ourselves for the expansion, which was the doubling almost of our production capacity. So that took me through a period of trying to think what I should do. I was during that period thinking about going to the US back again to do my MBA. and or starting my own business. I was not sure. I was conflicted. Then in the summer of 95, I was in London. I had a knee surgery at the time because I damaged my knee while skiing the same year. And during that period, something has happened which was very interesting for me. I thought of people as being two kinds: reactive and proactive. Reactive people are the ones that are kind of the employees that like the stability of a job, a salary check coming at the end of the month, having so many days a year, and being under that umbrella protection of working in a company. And the other one is proactive. Proactive was taking things into my own hand and making things happen, not waiting for approval, not getting people to give me the green light to do something. It's just wanting to do things on my own, how I wanted to do them. So for me, it was deciding which one of them. And I found myself, I said, I'm a proactive person. I'm not kind of a person that will be sort of just sitting in a career or in a job. So then it was a journey of trying to think about what to do. Should I get a franchise? What kind of product? What kind of service should I do? Until one day, I was coming out of a management meeting very frustrated, and a picture of a catalog just kind of popped in my mind about a company that visited us earlier when I was in Belexico. So I called the company and I said, are you interested in the Middle East market? They said, yes. I said, well, send me your technical catalogs. Let me have a look at it. So they sent it to me. I looked at it and I said, well, I think you have very interesting products. Are you interested that we do things together? They said, yes. So I did my feasibility study and the numbers looked good. So once I got that, the numbers kind of showed that it's a business that has a good potential. I sent it to the guys in France, the Instellux people. I said, well, the numbers look good. Let's do something. And then he said, okay, we're interested. So we signed a memorandum of understanding. And when I signed that memorandum of understanding, I traveled on my weekend. And when I got back on the plane coming back, I remember it was a KLM flight. It was as if I was carrying the whole world on my shoulder, and all of a sudden it's like, poof, I threw it away. So it was kind of a great feeling, but that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey.
Who's we? When you say we,
me and my French partners, the same company.
So the actual partners from France,
yes,
the Instellux,
yes,
from France.
And I'm the local Bahraini partner.
Okay,
so it's a joint venture.
And how did you raise the funds? I mean, what methods of fundraising did you go through? Or
well, we've identified that we would need around 40,000 dinars of budget, and considering that the French company wanted to have the 51% and I have the 49%, my share was around 19,600, I think, or 800. So I borrowed from the family.
Okay.
So that was kind of my budget. And then again, when you're starting a business, you're starting, you're going through downward in terms of your cash flow until things start to pick up. So that downward drop continued for a period of time, almost, I would say, a year and a half. So we exhausted all the money that we had. Then each one of us had to put an extra 10,000. And I remember till we reached a level where we had 532 dinars. That was it. Then the orders started to come and things started to pick up. And that was kind of, after 2 years, it was kind of like a bounce back. 99 was our first profitable year.
Did you have any, how supportive were the family members? Like, yes, go do it, Basim, or what are you doing? You left your corporate job and you're going to do this, you're taking up a risk. Is there any history of entrepreneurship in your family?
Well, I think as Bahrainis, yes, we are all entrepreneurs. We have it in our DNA, as they say, because I remember since I was very young, we had a family business, which means my late father and his brothers, we had a Swiss watch company shop in Bab al-Bahrain. And it was known at the time as, Sa'is were known to have sort of the Swiss watches, and everybody who wants to buy a watch would go to our shop. So that kind of, the exposure to trade when we were like, sometimes during the week, I would go with one of my uncles, or in the summer, we would meet with all my cousins in the shop and Bab al-Bahrain. And it was a kind of such a great time because everybody that had a business there the children during the summer would go and work or be in their father's business, and a lot of us would meet at the traditional coffee shop, drink tea or eat sambusa or something like that. So it was kind of very memorable. So all of us had that DNA of business in us. So that's what started. And like I said, I knew that I wanted to have my own business. I didn't want to be an employee. So that was kind of the early days of Instellux, which was very hard, very painful. I was one person doing everything. I was launching the company, launching the products, doing the quotations, doing the order processing, doing the filing, doing the accounts. And on top of that, when I left my previous company, Balexico, was not happy that I was sort of in a way competing with them. So they were out to basically close me down. And I was one man. And that was kind of a very difficult period because I would go negotiate a project with a consultant, introduce our products. They like our products. And as soon as I leave, they hear that I went to such consultant, they would go behind and try to discredit us and me personally. And it was very hard for a period of time, But again, it's things grew, and then we became 2 employees, and then we became 3 and 4, and things started to pick up at the time.
That's very interesting, because usually people don't know. I mean, they just see what you have, they just see who you are. They don't know what went.
Well, this is the reality of every, I would say, entrepreneur. Is people, when they see you today, they think it's been like a straight line journey. Actually, it's a lot of ups and downs, and even in a single day, you have many ups and downs. So it's not a smooth line. It has never been. It will never be a smooth line. Entrepreneurship is not easy. It is hard. You go through ups and downs. I would not recommend it for everybody because it's not easy. You have to work hard and you have to make things happen. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to give you your paycheck at the end of the month if you don't work, if you don't earn it. So it is very, very challenging. But if you have what it takes, then yes, it's an amazing journey. And I get asked by, sometimes over the years, I had the opportunity to mentor some young entrepreneurs or some young people. I always tell them that price is the last thing that you think about when you want to start a business. If you think you're going to start a business based on price, then don't start.
You mean based on how much?
Having a very competitive price than what's available in the market.
Don't compete on price. Okay, that's a very good tip.
Yeah, because today, if you're the cheapest person offering a product, tomorrow they're going to be, or next year, they're going to be 10 people cheaper than you. So what are you going to do? You cannot go in a downward spiral just competing on price. Margins are your life and death in a business. If you have very low margins, you die. If you have good margins, you make money. When you start a business, make sure you're bringing something to the market that is unique, that is special, that only you can have to differentiate yourself. don't bring a product that everybody has, or don't do something like everybody does. You need to have a very, very strong differentiator, something that you bring in that is not available, that's going to make you stand out, even with competition.
How do you come up with these ideas? I mean, somebody's listening to you right now and they say, okay, you worked in Mexico, so you had that exposure in terms of aluminiums and aluminum fittings. So it made sense for you to continue that path with the knowledge that you've gained. Is that how everybody should approach it? See what they're good at, see what they've been exposed to, and then carry that? Or is there a different way, a different method?
Well, I think, in my opinion, I think everybody gets an opportunity. And the people that take advantage of that opportunity and make it happen are the ones that create things. I don't believe that only certain people are lucky and they get more opportunities than others. We all get equal opportunities. It's just the difference is that people go and take an opportunity and make it into a reality, into a project, and those that are always end up thinking too much about it, thinking what if, and not deciding anything. For me, one thing was very, very clear. What I was going through my mind at the time when I started my company, I said, there's a window that opened. I want to take advantage of that opportunity and go through it. And even if I fail, I don't want to be in my 50s or 60s and say, you know what, I had an idea and I wish I did it. That to me was something fundamental. So I think this is what I guess a lot of entrepreneurs go through is let's go, let's do it, let's give it our best effort. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it's okay. But not be anchored by fear of failure.
Now, during this period when Instellux came to be, were you married at the time?
No, actually, it was kind of a very challenging period because I started my company in 97, I got engaged in 98, and I got married in 99. So it was kind of a major decisions of deciding to get married, starting a company, and depending on it. And so that was kind of not an easy time. But and again, my wife has been a tremendous supporter throughout the years. But it was kind of a big challenge.
Yeah. It's like you're saying, bring it on, bring all the responsibilities in my life, bring it all at the same time. But these things just make you stronger. But at the same, I mean, we're talking about risk over here as well. People's. I keep saying that, risk tolerance. Were you not fearful of taking that risk and losing that money and losing that face? And then what do? You go back in Mexico and say, can I have my job back? I mean, did any of these come to your mind?
Well, it always comes to your mind, and it never stops because even now you always think about sometimes if there's an adverse situation that happens or bad economic cycle, or you're affected by certain circumstances, you always have your fears of what if. But again, it's your abilities to bounce back. And I think what makes a difference is that I believe we do our most amazing thinking and transformation when our back is against the wall. As entrepreneurs, when we are faced with a very difficult and challenging situation where we have no room, is when we do our most creative work and our most significant work. And all of us as entrepreneurs, we've gone through this when we faced hardship, when we faced very big challenges. We really had to have that fighting spirit, come up with a new system, a new product, a new idea, and try to kind of push it forward. And which brings us to the comfort zone, which is what we always hear, which is something that is very true. I believe in it, that any person or business that falls in the comfort zone is in danger, because the world never stops. Your competitors don't stop. But unfortunately, sometimes it's human nature. We fall in the comfort zone. And when we fall in the comfort zone, we face challenges. Then we have to bounce back.
How are you involved in Instellux main office in terms of like, are you part of the feedback information, telling them like, look, this works better, or this new thing is happening, how can we adapt it? Tell us how you made your company not just survive for 26 years, but thrive and deal with the changes of time.
Well, it's through a lot of ups and downs. Some of it market-driven, some of it things within your control, some of it things that are beyond your control. When our main competitor was out to get us and close us down, then 2006 was a period that was kind of a very serious period where we were doing a lot of projects in Dubai in the early 2000s. The margins were I call them suicidal margins. You're working, doing big volume, but very little money. And it was kind of very uncomfortable for us. So we decided to kind of stop working on some of these big projects. But again, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because when things, because of the financial crisis of 2008, we were not exposed. So that kind of protected us. But again, we had to fight to crawl up from the hole to get up to a comfortable position. The advantage of working in the Gulf region is that you're not dependent on one market. And sometimes you have one market dropping or a few markets dropping, you have one market picking up. So you're always kind of, balancing yourself. Even though this period of time, we see sort of a major slowdown in a lot of markets, but Saudi is a very active market. But it's not easy. It's tough, competitive. You need to innovate. You need to come up with new products and new things, elevate your service, elevate what you're giving to your customers and the market.
What does Instellux primarily specializes in, and where is it positioned here in Bahrain in terms of what it does?
So basically, Instellux products are related to the building and construction industry. And it's whether you're building a house or building a big tower, skyscraper. We provide a full system for making doors, windows, and those glass facades. We work on big projects and small projects. So from a home builder, an owner that wants to build his house that comes to us, all the way to working on big projects. As we say, we don't sell aluminium, we sell a system. What do we mean by a system? A system means basically it's a product that's made up from aluminium extrusions, handles, locks, accessories, gaskets. All these components together with the glass are tested. Just like when you buy a car, different parts of the car are not made by the same maker. But when it's put together, it's a final product that gets tested for safety, reliability, the same in our industry. So all the components that go to make a window or a door are tested in a laboratory and verified to give certain performance, whether it's air tightness, water tightness, wind loading resistance, or sometimes in big towers we do something like hurricane force, wind level testing, thermal insulation. Sometimes we do sound insulation. And over the years in this industry, we've done a lot of projects. And one of the most unique ones was a blast resistant, which we did it for a project in Kuwait a few years ago, where there was a court complex that was built. And we had to test our products for withstanding a blast. So we had to ship material to a test site in outside of Newcastle, I think, in the UK. And they put I believe, close to 100 kilos of TNT, and they blew it certain distance from it. And you were not supposed to have glass shrapnels coming into the building. So the structure was sacrificed, but no glass should come inside. So we had that done on video. So that was kind of one of the challenging things that we did.
So you work all over the GCC?
Yes, and sometimes beyond. We've done some projects over the years in Lebanon and in Syria, and we did just one project recently in Egypt.
So Instellux Bahrain caters to all the region,
yes,
Middle Eastern region.
Yes.
Now, how do you continuously innovate? I mean, how do you stay up with the trends? Do you anticipate something, or do you just wait for something to be asked and you guys do it, or do you come and introduce?
Well, there's always people innovating in terms of design, coming up with new concepts, new designs, new applications, and these kind of things sort of start small but then grow. So sometimes going to exhibitions is very important because you can start to see these trends.
Do you remember the first job you ever did?
The first job we did was a health center in Ali and the Bahrain golf course.
The Rifa golf course?
The Rifa golf course.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the first projects that we did. So starting from zero was really, really, really challenging. Very, very hard. But we had an amazing, I would say, people through this journey that gave us a hand and trusted us. And one of them I'll never forget is Muhammad Salahuddin, which is MSCEB. And I always say that I tell him, Muhammad, thank you. I can never say thank you enough because you're one of the people that supported us and trusted in us. And that's something that was very important for us.
What GCC country were you most comfortable doing business with?
There's no particular country because in each country you go through ups and downs. Sometimes you have a good customer that is a joy to work with and the relationship becomes very strong and grows, and then all of a sudden you find that the customer faces challenges, so things slow down. So over the years it's been many people. There's no particular one market. Kuwait was for a period of time. Qatar was in the early days very important for us. Dubai was very important for us. Actually, Dubai was a very interesting market. The first large i'mar project, we did it. And it was called the Greens. It was a cluster of 14 buildings next to the Emirate Golf Club. It started with 14 buildings, and by the time we finished it in 2005 or 4, it ended up being 41 buildings. And the first 5 buildings that got built in Burj Khalifa area were done in Instellux. I still have pictures when Burj Khalifa was a flat land and nothing but a flat land with a foundation.
This is the tallest building in the world.
The tallest. But we didn't do that,
right,
of course, but the buildings around it. So we did a few of those 5 towers to come for i'mar. In that area, we did it. So it's a lot of memories.
So what is your secret? How do you get them? Is it you? Is it your team? Is it the jobs the jobs that you do? They speak for themselves because it's not like you're putting your logo on the companies on the buildings that you're doing. So how do people find out?
Well, see, it's part of the sales and marketing that you do, and then and the network that you built over the years. People know you, even on a global scale. The industry is still relatively small. So you come across many people over the years, and these people go from one company to another company. For example, a technical manager in one company in Kuwait that moved to a company in Qatar. For example, he worked with your product and he remembers you. Then he would call you up and say, by the way, I moved to a new company and I would like to work with you. And that's how it starts, one by one. And then sort of also the projects themselves, they once they're finished, people look at it and then they recognize it.
What methods has Basim Al Saie implemented in Instellux to make it what it is today?
What I always say to my staff and people is always be hungry for learning. Always try to learn. Don't become static. Always ask. The more you ask, the more you learn. So I always emphasize on that, is always try to be the best at what you do. And if you have that mindset, then you're going to be okay.
You can apply that mindset to pretty much any areas of business?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, when I look back at my journey, I've been working now, if you calculate, since January 88 up to today, it's quite a long time. I would say is pushing yourself to learn new things all the time and never settle down in terms of developing yourself and skills that you have. Because in the beginning, it doesn't look very clear, but over a long period of time, you see it like a dashed line. You know, all the things that you pushed yourself to learn, to push yourself in tough situations that you were forced to give exceptional effort to develop yourself, have all come back later on to help you.
Do you have any family members, role models? Has anybody played a part, a role in that? I believe your brother is also an entrepreneur himself, correct?
I'm not the one that had one person that would stand out. I would say that this is the most influential person. But I would say one of them has to be my mother, my late mother, God bless her soul. She was a hardworking woman. She was a businesswoman, started her fashion business in 1975. She built a fashion business that was recognized as one of the top destinations for top-end European clothes for many years, and even people from around the Gulf, they used to come. She was a hardworking woman, and I learned she was definitely my one of the people I kind of,
inspired you.
Inspired me at the top of the list. And then basically I had my brother, who was a banker at the time.
This is
Nizar had always an influence on me because he was more kind of in the business, and he was a successful banker. And then later on, now he's sort of also an entrepreneur, started, Kalam Telecom and other things. And he's always been involved in various projects. And of course, there's a lot of business leaders. The great business leaders are always very inspiring. And sometimes you hear, when you sit with them, you hear one or two stories that kind of made an impact on you. One of them was the late Ali Fakhro, God bless his soul. He was a very close friend to my father. I did not meet him as much as I would have liked to, but every time I sat with him and he talked, I learned something from him.
Can you share a moment where you had to trust your intuition as an entrepreneur? Like you had to make a decision. And what I'm trying to get from this question is I'm trying to find out how an entrepreneur thinks when facing with a problem versus somebody who's not an entrepreneur would think.
I always say that as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you are a warrior. Every day you go to your office, you're at war.
You're fighting.
But you don't know where is it coming from. It's coming from a competitor, it's coming from a market, it's coming from
your staff,
or is it coming from the environment you're in, regulation, an entity, your bank. So it's always a challenge. So again, it's you're a warrior.
You really are. You really need to continuously develop that skill that you have, because you keep encountering problems, and the problems are not the same problems as before. So it's not always you can apply your experience to these new problems and challenges. And as you said, regulations change. Just when you think everything is okay, everything's okay, something out of nowhere comes up. Or political economic climate, something nothing to do with you. You have no power over. And suddenly you're stuck in this situation needing to, or medical for that matter, in the past 3 years. Companies have come to ask you also to get involved with them in terms of board advisory. What board do you currently sit on?
My biggest, I would say, decision was in end of 2017 when I decided to run for elections for the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce.
The Bahrain Chamber of Commerce, really, it's an entity that supports the local businesses and represents them in the government areas.
It's an advocacy. As any chamber of commerce, basically, it's an advocacy that engages with the authorities to represent the private sector. Our involvement currently with the authorities is very different than what it used to be many years ago. Many years ago, somebody would just go and see the highest level authority in the government and just complain about a situation and then ask them to solve it. Now it's different. What we do is we do a lot of studies. We gather the data. We do surveys. We do it meeting people in the street and doing work groups, collecting all the data, putting it together, organizing it, coming up with the situation and option of solutions and presenting it to the authorities. So basically it's not just complaining about something and saying, go and fix it, but it's like, this is the situation, this is the data that supports it. These are the solutions that we are proposing. So that's what we did. But I think one of the biggest achievements was the transformation of the chamber. In 2018, when we entered, the chamber was an awful place. There was inner fighting between the boards, different sides. The staff within the chamber were kind of polarized. And a lot of people lost faith in the chamber. Even the government, the authorities lost faith in the chamber. And everybody, especially young people, when they look at the chamber, they think it's a bunch of old people sitting there and doing nothing except traveling. So we had to change. We came with a program of transformation, is how to take the chamber from being irrelevant and in the past and bring it to the...
Who was heading it at that time? During that time, who was the head?
It was Sameer Uchi as the head of the chairman. But we had a very clear program of transformation, and I was happy to be part of that program, and the group that kind of had an input in that. So we went through a transformation period of trying to clean up, to reorganize, to energize the chamber as an institution, to have it more focused, to have staff that feel motivated, that have a sense of pride of where they're working, that understand what is their roles and responsibilities. And also as a board, we paved the direction of where we wanted to take the chamber to. Unfortunately, that it's one of those roles that is an ungrateful job, I always say, because no matter what you do, you will always be criticized for doing nothing. But as long as you believe in what you're doing and you're personally satisfied with what you're doing, that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it's the results that when you do a job, when you complete a job, or for you time to step down and give it to the next team that will take it forward, is that you're satisfied with what you have done. So that was kind of the board in the Chamber of Commerce was a very important role. Of course, there are people that are active and there are people that are passive, that are just not doing as much, but that's kind of normal. As long as you know you're active, you do things and you add value, that's to me is what drives me personally. Is as long as I can add value, I'd be happy to be involved. So it took a lot of time. It's one of those roles, if you want to do something, it takes time. It gives you exposure because you're at the pinnacle organization that represents the private sector. So, and the government looks up to you for feedback on certain laws and legislations, and even the Parliament and the Shura Council. And I think it has gained, the chamber has gained its respect again, and among the decision makers, but also among its members. Making everybody satisfied 100% is impossible, but again, as long as you feel that you've done the best that you can, I think it's what matters. And through that, I think there was an exposure that people noticed you and maybe saw that you can add certain value, and that opened up certain opportunities. As Bahrain Chamber of Commerce, you are representing the chamber in some organizations. For example, I'm representing the chamber in Tamkeen, because 3 seats in Tamkeen's board are from the Chamber of Commerce. I'm filling one of them. Another one is basically RERA, where I'm representing the chamber on RERA, which is the Real Estate Regulatory Authority. And through that, again, opportunities came. And, one of them was, the biggest challenge for me was when I was asked by Mumtalakat to be the chairman of GAMCO in May 2018. That was kind of a very big challenge, because GAMCO was a distressed company at the time, had a huge debt, and it was facing insolvency. And that kind of, I would say, an opportunity that came, and it was a very hard one, because it had many challenges with it, and dealing with such a huge load and trying to save a company in a very short time had a wealth of experience with it. And then from that on, a lot of opportunities that came. I have a few boards that I'm serving on. Now I'm representing Mumtalakat on the Bahrain flour mills. I'm back again in GAMCO, but this time not as a chairman, but as a vice chairman representing one of the creditors, which is now the owners. I like to get involved in responsibilities where I feel I can give something. At my kind of level right now, after being so many years in business, I have certain experiences where I think if I can put them to good use, I would be happy to contribute.
Before I go to the next area, when you were the Chamber of Commerce, what's the most common? I mean, you're an entrepreneur, and I think most members are entrepreneurs, correct? And board members.
Some of them come from business families,
right?
But not necessarily entrepreneurs. Some of us are entrepreneurs that started their own companies, but a lot of them are from business families.
Now, what's the most common thing you hear, and how can you relate to it, and how can you understand it? Not how can you understand, and do you understand it, given the fact that you're actually one of them? You are actually the entrepreneur. You're just sitting on the other side. I mean, you're not really sitting on the other side. You're now receiving. When you receive information, be it complaints or suggestions, whatever, do you ever say, yeah, they're right. Yeah, if I was them, that's exactly what I would be saying over here. What's one of the most common things that you hear the business community complaining or requesting or needing?
Today, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people are facing is cash flow. And a lot of companies are seriously affected by the cash flow. So that's kind of the most important thing, I would say, as number one factor that is affecting the business community right now.
The suggestion that Gossi is coming up with is going to specifically hurt that specific area, which is the cash flow, which is the indemnity part, or the Gossi is now getting wants to get involved in the expat employees as well, not just the local employees.
Well, see, as businesses operating in Bahrain, over the years, we've seen an escalation of fees that we pay. A lot of fees that we pay to various organizations, and The utilities costs have gone up tremendously. So this has affected the business community in a very big way. And then for businesses to continue and thrive, there has to be a business. There has to be cash flow. So, okay, you pay the fees, you pay the rents, you pay the utility costs, you pay all of this. But if business continues to come and grow, it kind of makes up for it. But when there's a disruption in the business and you have cost that you still have to pay, which has become higher, this is a challenge that a lot of businesses are facing. So how do you go about it? Certain businesses have maybe will survive. Some of them will not survive. Some of them, to survive, they would have to go outside of Bahrain. And a lot of them are being pushed to go to Saudi or other markets. So that's the nature of the business. It's a very dynamic situation. It changes. Like you said earlier, sometimes you have internal issues in the company. Sometimes you have external issues that you cannot influence or control. But they happen and they affect your business. So as a business owner, you have to learn to bounce back and find a solution for it.
Right. So as a business owner, you're correct. And if you bounce back and then you're faced with another obstacle and then bounce back and then faced with another obstacle, then at the end of the day, you're going to start and think like, wait a minute. This amount of effort that I'm putting into this business, had it been located somewhere else, had it been in a different type of market, would I be getting the same kind of results? I mean, maybe the same problems, maybe more problems, in fact, because I think Bahrain is blessed. It doesn't have that much of an issues, but also it's a tiny market. So I keep thinking in my head, in the past 20 years of my entrepreneurial life and the areas that I was involved in, which is media, publications, which is mass. It's a mass type of business, mass marketing kind of business. Had that effort and work that I did was, say, in a bigger, I don't know, somewhere in Europe or even somewhere in Saudi Arabia, or somewhere where there's a big market, how different would it have been? I think, so I answer my own question. Definitely I'll be benefiting from that size. Definitely I'll be benefiting from that market, the huge market. But when things go wrong, I won't be able to handle it or take care of it in the same way that I can here in Bahrain. When things went wrong during the COVID crisis, we had to sort it out. But I had to sort it out, a basket full of problems, not a truckload full of problems, which is what I would have had I been in a bigger market. So there's good and bad in both ways.
But that's the nature of entrepreneurship, which we talked about earlier. It's not easy. But an entrepreneur, you're a fighter, so you have to learn to fight and swim against the tide, and then until you reach tranquil waters, and then be able to enjoy it.
On that note, what advice would you give aspiring entrepreneurs who are hesitant to take that leap?
I always, as we say in EO, an entrepreneur's organization, we don't like to give advice because giving advice makes you liable.
Is it Gestalt? What is it? What's the
Gestalt?
Gestalt.
Yeah.
Because I was in EO.
Because if I'm giving advice, then it means I'm telling you to do something.
Right.
And if you do that thing and it doesn't deliver the results, and you come back to me and said, you told me so. So what we always say is share your experiences. And then your experiences, when you share them, it's up to the receiving party to take it or not. To become an entrepreneur, you need to have that fire in you inside that you want to do something that is different, that is transformational. And that's the spark that starts most entrepreneurs, is that they have an idea, they have a thought about doing something, they have a product that they believe is going to change the situation. And that is the spark that starts it. You cannot just go and say, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, and what would you suggest that I do? No, it cannot be like that. Who am I to suggest to you what you should do? So it has to be, you have to find that spark that makes you passionate about, yes, I want to do this. And when I do this, it's going to change things in the market. I'm going to be offering a new product. I'm going to be offering a new service. If that spark and passion is not there, then it's pointless to start that business or that entrepreneurship journey.
I 100% agree with you. I actually also use a strategy, when people ask for advice, and as you said, because I was also a member of EO, we didn't talk about EO, but EO is definitely much bigger today than what it was when I first joined it. And thanks to people like you and the current board members and the previous board members who have really taken the EO and made it, something to be reckoned with. And now it's involved with the government entities. I heard it's always helping different government entities, helping different, it really has it's like an octopus now. Its tentacles are all over the place.
Well, see, the beauty of EO is that it's an amazing organization.
So EO is Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a worldwide entrepreneurs organization where entrepreneurs who have a certain success financial rate can be part of this for an annual
fee that you pay.
Correct?
Yeah.
And with that, you get so many benefits and exposures and connections and network.
Right. It's basically the criteria for EO is very simple, is that you have to be a founder or co-founder of a business that has revenues of over $1 million. So then you qualify to be an EO. And the amazing thing about it is that all the members are people that built their businesses. They are business owners. So the energy and the experience there is tremendous. And today EO has grown to probably over 18,000 worldwide and maybe having over 200 chapters. And probably if you look at the revenues of EO members, maybe it will come close to $600-700 billion, maybe even more than that, and employing millions and millions of people worldwide. The most amazing thing about EO for me, I always say that EO was one of the best business decisions of my life because it gave me a system or a tool that I can learn and develop my skills. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's a lonely it's a lonely world because your friends are employees, so they don't have the same challenges. You're going to ask them for advice, you're going to ask them for experiences, but they're not experienced. But somebody who has built his business, who has gone through the challenge, can give you that experience. So it's bringing those like-minded entrepreneurs together creates a very powerful knowledge-based organization. And that's the basis of it, is learning from each other, sharing experiences, and the values that are very strong makes you feel comfortable about sharing things that personal or business-wise with EO members worldwide, because the element of trust and respect and non-judgment is very, very high. Like I said, a lot of things in the beginning of your journey, you feel it's, how is this going to help me? But later on, when you see it, you see that it was a dashed line that took you where you are today, from a simple thing of managing and running a meeting. And a lot of meetings, if they are not managed and run properly, they give very little results. From preparing an agenda, to respecting the time, to focusing at the core issues, to dealing with conflict. All of this is valuable later on when you become a board member, because boards are very challenging environments sometimes. And sometimes you have conflicts, you have disagreeing or disagreement or different opinions. So a lot of the things that you learn and you practice along the way, later on you find it becomes very beneficial.
And it's not like you learn this in school, or it's not like you can even, it's very difficult to learn that.
Yeah.
It's
actually, my experience in EO was, it's like any organization, you decide to be a member, but you're not going to benefit just by being a member and paying your dues and doing nothing. It's just like, the there's a soccer field and there are people playing and you're sitting on the sidelines. If you do not go and play in the field, you're not going to benefit from it. You're not going to enjoy it. So it is pushing yourself to really be involved and benefit from it. And it's a very important thing that you will gain over the years from that.
100% agree with you. We were involved, I think, over 10 years was involved in it. But going back to when somebody asks me for advice and for things, and yes, being an EO member, I also, like you, don't want to tell people what to do or just share with them the experiences. This is what EO tells you to do or teaches you to do. But one thing I always tell them is, in the area that you know, in the area that you work in, be it an employee or whatever it is that you do in your life, see things that can be improved. See things that you don't like, something that you don't like about it, and then turn that into your idea, turn that into your business. If you're involved in the company that you're in, you notice something in that company that's not quite working so well, you think it can work better, you have a better idea with it, that could be your business, that could be your idea. If you're experiencing, you're buying something, be it online, physically, or you're trying to choose something, whatever it is that you're facing in life, you're building a house, you're negotiating deals, whatever it is that you're doing, if you see an error in your opinion, in your professional so-called opinion, if you see something that's not quite done right, or it could be done better, or why is it done that way, instead of complaining, go do something about it and hopefully make money from it. This is how I usually tell people that. But I also try to not give the advice that EO
this
told us.
This brings me, Sameer, to a very interesting thing, which is, I've heard it once from a very successful entrepreneur, Jeff Hoffman, which is the guy that invented Booking.com and Priceline.com, and he's the one that invented the self-check-in kiosks for airlines. He's an amazing person, is an amazing entrepreneur, very humble. He's done many things in his life. And he said it very, very interestingly that resonates with me and in line with what you just said. A lot of the entrepreneurs did not sit and brainstorm to come up with this most genius ideas. No. According to Jeff, he said, I saw a problem and I found a solution for it. And because this problem, many others face it, made it successful, because when I found the problem, I solved the problem for millions of people. And when he talks about how did he come up with the idea of the self-check-in kiosk, he said, I was waiting to check in for a flight, and I know that airlines have the most sophisticated computer systems. I don't have luggage, and we're just a long line waiting for the check-in counter, and I could not imagine, why do I have to wait in line if I don't have baggage or luggage to check in with people that do? It doesn't make sense. It was a problem. It was frustrating me. And that's when I came up with a system of building those kiosks that are linked with the booking confirmation from the computer system of the airlines, and people can go there and get their boarding passes without having to wait. So it is the mindset of finding a solution to a problem that can be the inspiration for starting your project.
Right. Yep. Definitely agree with that. What do you think of the current business environment in the GCC? Which we have Saudi, we have UAE being Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Of course, we have Qatar, and Kuwait is right there as well. And Oman, it's quiet, but it's definitely making its footprints. And of course, Bahrain, which is where we are. What, in your opinion and your professional opinion as an entrepreneur who has worked in pretty much all over this GCC countries, what do you think of the economic business environment, and what would you comment? What would you like to see being done differently, better? If you were involved and you're in charge of changing and making things, what would you do?
Yeah. Well, I think there's many sides to this. Let me start first by saying that as a GCC, we should have been very, very far ahead in terms of integrated markets, being one market, no boundaries, no obstacles, no different regulations. And I think this is kind of the sad reality, but it's also an opportunity that, all business owners, we feel that, since the inception of the GCC, we should have been far, far, far ahead on the economic side, on the business side, in terms of integration, borderless, points, allowing free flow of goods and services. This would be my number one priority. My number one priority is to solve this, because the growth, the potential opportunities that can result of having one single market are immense. Immense. Even if you're a company in Bahrain that has not exported, if we remove those boundaries and obstacles, it would be very easy for a small company in Bahrain to sell its product in other markets. Today, it's more challenging. And I hope that this changes, because it's definitely going to unleash a huge level of investment and opportunities within the region. Every market with those markets in the GCC has its potential. Right now, everybody's focused at Saudi, because Saudi is going through tremendous transformation. They want to do everything super, super fast, super quickly, and they have the funds to do it. But I would say that, it is not a green field where you can go and things are rosy and easy. It's going to be a challenge. Doing business in Saudi is not so easy. It's easier than before, but it's not as easy as people make it to be. So make sure that you understand this, that you put the right effort, you take this into consideration, and like everything else, nothing comes easy by just opening a business and getting a CR and saying, okay, the money will start to come now. No, it requires hard work. Bigger markets have bigger competitors. But it is the biggest market today. It's where everybody's focused, where the whole world is focused. It's interestingly today, when you go to the Gulf Air Lounge in Bahrain Airport, you will see people there that you don't see in Bahrain, but you meet them in the lounge, but who are in the early 2000s, they used to go to Dubai. Anybody that you wanted to see in Bahrain, you didn't see, you go to the Gulf Air Lounge in the airport, you would see them, and they will all be going to Dubai. Now, the same thing is happening, but everybody's going to Riyadh. So that's basically where the gravity of the business is shifting to. It's a huge market. It's the biggest market in the region. Makes difference when you have a market that has 36, 38 million people. So it is the market where the biggest potential is right now.
What would you say your greatest strength and weakness?
Let me share a story here, because I think it is very interesting, and I always say that. It's a very interesting story. Once I was traveling in the U.S. from one city to another city, and in the U.S. sometimes you have to go through hubs where you have to change plane to go somewhere else. You have to go through a hub system rather than a direct flight. So I'm always a person that loves magazines and loves to read. So one of my biggest joys is to go into a bookshop and to look at the magazine racks or see some of the books. I noticed a book that said Strength Finder 2.0. And I said, what is that? And I read the title and I said, it's interesting. So I bought the book. It's not a very big book. It's a few hundred pages, 100 plus. And it's not actually a book that you read. It's more like explaining different characteristics and what is those characteristics, people that have them, what are they good for?
Very interesting.
And if that person has that quality, how you can influence them to do something. At the end of the book, it had a barcode. and you have to go through a website. You enter that barcode, and you take a psychometric test. It is the smartest psychometric test I have ever taken.
Wait, I want to know what this is.
It is basically, when you take a lot of these psychometric tests, you know that this question is leading you. If you answer this, it's going to make you good. If you answer this, it's going to make you not so good.
Right.
But these questions
They were all
are
right.
so special and good that you cannot decide it. You cannot be influenced in your answers. So you take it, it's almost like 30 to 45 minutes. So you have to lock yourself, no disruptions to do it. And I would say each one of us knows that we are good in certain areas and we have strength in certain areas. But this survey made it absolutely clear that what I'm good at. And the whole idea about it is that forget about what you're not good at. In the past, they used to tell us, take a weakness, work hard on it, and convert it to a strength. That doesn't work. Because what we're good at and what we're not good at is part of our DNA, is part of how we are made. So a lot of people end up wasting endless time and energy and leading to frustration, trying to convert something that is part of them. On the opposite side, if you focus at what you're good at, the survey says that you'll be able to achieve 5 times, not 10%, not 5%, 500% better success at what you're doing. So that was kind of a transformational for me. And I took that test, and it gave me my top 5 strengths. And my number 1 was basically strategic. So I'm good at looking at strategic issues, decisions, situations that are complex and not clear. I have the ability to see through them, sometimes complex situations. So that's what the strength that I have, and I try to use that.
What's next for Basim Al Saie?
God knows.
Well, you're good at strategy. Obviously, you've established that. So strategize and tell us what you're
Well, see, I mean, one of my number 1 passions is, like I said earlier, is Bahrain. It's how to transform Bahrain and take it to the next level. This is something that keeps me sleepless at night, of imagining of what can be done. And I'm the kind of person that believes in the big picture. I like to see the big picture. And based on that, to focus at what can be done. And I can tell you that time is passing by, but it's never too late. And I hope that I will be in a position to develop part of this big picture and be able to contribute to Bahrain and to others.
Actually, I very much look forward to it, Basim. We're going to keep track of what you're doing on the entrepreneurial and beyond, because now you're reaching the beyond part. Although in your heart you're an entrepreneur, and everything that you touch and do and approach comes from that base of entrepreneurial base, which is key in your strategy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us your journey, and for letting us know a lot of stuff that we didn't know before. Really appreciate it, and we're very much looking forward to where you're going to be, and what you're going to be doing next. And we have our ears wide open, and hopefully there's a lot of good stuff there.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I really want to see Bahrain really advance to very, very high level. And I always say that Bahrain is a small country by size, but its people and their contributions is much, much bigger than the size of the country. On a global level, you find always Bahrainis have done above and beyond.
We definitely punch bigger than our size, and again, thank you, and we want you to be back here again, hopefully talking to us about a different thing that you're part of or that you're involved in, and sharing that experiences. And one more time, thank you, Basim, very much for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.